بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي رب زدني علما آمين. So we were doing a book called Sword Against Black Magic and Evil Magicians. We'll continue with chapter 7. Today we're going to start new chapter. Chapter 6 we did in 6 parts. And here chapter 7 is also very long, and we're going to cover number of things in this, and it will take time to complete this book. Let's continue. So the treatment of black magic for Arrabt. Treatment of black magic, this is chapter 7 part 1. Chapter 7 part 1, treatment of black magic for Arrabt. Here problems during intercourse. Definition of a rabt we're going to see in this chapter, and how rabt is done, and rabt in women's sexual frigidity, treatment of rabt in men, difference between rabt and impotence, treatment of a rabt al-ajaz al-jinsi, sexual inability, impotence, and ad-duhaf, jinsi, sexual weakness, and types of and causes of sterility, treatment of sterility, treatment of premature ejaculation, protection of the bride and groom against black magic before their first intercourse. So we're going to discuss 12 things in it: protective measures against black magic, magic in general, practical cases for the treatment of Arrabt. So here, let's continue. First, the definition of Arrabt. Arrabt is the inability of a physically fit and healthy man to have sexual intercourse with his wife. Before discussing the cause of Arrabt, we must first know how a erection is achieved. Like most of the married women, they could understand this very easily. I don't have to specify it. But for the girls, biologically, if you read that chapter about the erection of the men, in that it's mentioned in detail. So physiology of sexually in men, generally, how the erection will be there, and how the blood circulation will be there, and how the change of the that particular part I'm talking about, and that will make you have the erection, and then it will have the discharge from it. So erection is achieved in 3 stages. When a man is sexually aroused, the testicles becomes activated and released hormones into the bloodstream until hormones reaches a high level, making the heart beat faster and the skin flush red as it electrically charged. And the second thing, the sexual hormones reach the appropriate center in the brain, reactivating hormone production in a positive feedback loop. The third thing, sexual excitement center in the brain is stimulated as so sends rapid signals to special nerves in spinal column, a valve which is usually closed when there is no sexual excitement, opens and blood is pumped into spongy tissue layers of the penis, which erects fully when pumped up to the higher pressure with the blood. So how is black magic for Rabt done? The genie entrusted with the task of performing the spell. So have you noticed in every job they are using genie to do the task? Who? The magician, the sorcerer. Here, the genie entrusted with the task of performing the spell settles in a man's brain, precisely in the center of sexual excitement, which sends code to the sexual organs and lets the sexual organs function normally. But when a man approaches his wife with the intention of having sexual intercourse, the genie thwarts the center of sexual excitement in the brain and blocks the signals sent to the organs which pump blood into the penis for erection. So consequently, what happens, the blood draws back rapidly from the penis and causing it to shrink. So here, even though he wants to do it, but he is not able to. Here, a man, for instance, may be normal when making love to his wife. This is within erect penis. However, when he is about to penetrate intercourse, his penis shrinks and he cannot have sexual intercourse. And erection is an essential ingredient in achieving sexual intercourse. As we know, sometimes a man with two wives may be affected with sihr or rabt, but only with one wife. This is because the genie is this type of spell only hinders the center of sexual excitement when the man approaches that specific wife. One is doing for to the another in jealousy so that he do not approach for the other one. So that's the reason. And biologically, most of the things we understand. And when you are newly married, or if you have problems like this, you have to share with particular person to whom you trust in the family. And medically, you have to go and have your checkup. Don't sit at home ideally, because this is very important part of the life. Because Allah has given that, you know, it is a part of the ibadah when having sexual intercourse, husband and wife, because we are achieving something in a halal way. So Allah has given that option to achieve in a halal way. So why not? But if you have hindrance, if you have problem, you have to go through the doctor, or you can share in the family any particular person to whom you trust, but don't publicize it. You can't humiliate anyone in front of anyone. Okay. But Arrabt in women also is there, sexually frigidity. Just as man suffer from Arrabt, the penile erection failure, and is unable to have sexual intercourse with his wife, a woman too may suffer from Arrabt frigidity. There are 5 types of Rabt in women. How many? 5 types. First, Arrabt al-Man, obstruction. So here, Arrabt al-Man, obstruction, it occurs when a woman prevents her husband from having sexual intercourse with her by tightly joining her legs. She don't allow it, tightly joining her legs together and obstructing his penis from entering into the vagina. This reaction is automatic and beyond her control. But one young man whose wife was affected by this type of black magic criticized his wife for her response. So she explained that it was beyond her control. One day she told him to put iron shackle between her legs to keep them apart before starting sexual intercourse. He did that, but it was no avail. Alternatively, she told him to give her a drug injection if he wants to have sexual intercourse with her. It worked, but only one partner benefited. No, that's no use. One is the other partner is not enjoying and it is not involved. So it's really hard to, do that. The second thing, Rabt al-Taballud, lack of sexual feeling. The genie entrusted with the mission of black magic settles in the center of sexual feeling in the woman's brain and cause her to lose her sexual feeling at the moment of sexual intercourse, at that moment, with her husband. As a result, she feels no sexual pleasure and does not respond to her husband. Her body becomes numb. Even her husband does what he wishes with her. In this type of black magic, the glands do not release the fluid, which lubricate the vagina. Therefore, the sexual act cannot be achieved. The vagina part will be so dry, can't be achieved, and many people they ask this question to their doctors and they give some lubricant to use it. Third thing is Rabd an-Nazif, bleeding at the time of sexual intercourse. This is different from black magic an-Nazif in one aspect. While Rabd an-Nazif is confined to the time of sexual intercourse, and Nazif may last for several days. In this type of black magic, the genie causes heavy bleeding, istihaza, to the target woman at the time of sexual intercourse with her husband and prevents the man from having sexual intercourse with his wife. One day, a man who was a soldier told me that whenever he came for holidays, his wife would bleed as soon as he arrived home. The bleeding would last for the holiday period, which was approximately 5 days, but would stop as soon as he went back to work. So author is sharing one of the incident which happened. Rabd al-insidad. This is fourth one, blockage in the vagina. It occurs when a man finds an obstacle of flesh in the vagina which prevents the penetration of the penis. So the sexual intercourse is not achieved. Something is obstructing and something is not allowing you to that kind of thing, a flesh. And the fifth one is Rabd of Taghwir, loss of virginity. It occurs when a man marries a virgin woman but finds her to be without her virginity at their first sexual intercourse. As a result, doubts are raised concerning her past. So what happened? However, the virginity returns once the spell is removed. So this can be possible. So don't start doubting your wife. It can be because of the Rabd al-Taghwir, loss of virginity. So treatment of Rabd in men, method 1. How the treatment of Rabd in men, which we have seen the first case. Method 1, recite Ruqya, mentioned at the beginning of chapter 6. We have seen detail in chapter 6 how a Ruqya can be done. And in the end of the chapter 6, part 6, again I repeated the whole procedure how it can be achieved. And if you listen chapter 6, all parts 1 to 6, there I have mentioned everything. If genie speaks through the patient, ask him about the place where the spell is buried. First, you're going to recite Ruqya mentioned in the chapter 6. Then genie starts speaking. When genie starts speaking, ask that genie where the spell is buried. If he does, destroy the spell and ask him to get out of the patient's body. You should ask genie to get out of the patient's body. Once he leaves, the spell would be invalidated. As soon the genie leaves the body, the spell invalidated. But if you recite the Ruqya and genie fails to speak, use other method. Okay, you recited Ruqya and no genie is speaking to you. What you gonna do? You're gonna follow method 2. Recite the following verses several times over water and advise the patient to drink and wash from it for few days. Which ayahs we going to recite? وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَى أَنْ أَلْقِيَ عَصَاكَ فَإِذَا هِيَ تَلْقَفُ مَا يَأْفِكُونَ. This is, we already have seen this. This is Surah Al-A'raf, Surah number 7, ayah number 117 to 122. Till Rabbi Musa wa Harun, we're going to recite this several times. As I mentioned in chapter 6 also, either you decide to recite 7, 11 or 13, any odd number. If you decide, continue with that. And how you have to do it? Collect the water in some container, keep the lids open, and also oil whatever you are using for the patient, oils and some lotions you want to do the ruqya on that. Keep the lids open for everything Start reciting it, of course, with the wudu and taking care of everything as I mentioned in chapter 6. And then reciting this ayah again and again. Depends on your situation. First, recite 7 times and look how it will work. If it won't, then exceed your number of times, 11, 13, so on and so forth. But make sure you do it in a proper way. And this water, you're gonna after reciting the ruqya, you're gonna like this, and then close the lid and keep it for drinking as well as for the shower. But as I mentioned before, first you're gonna take normal shower, and after that take some tub or something in the washroom and just put the water from top to bottom. Water will go through from head to toe, and that water will collect in a container and you will throw in the garden. You're not going to throw in the sewage water. And the next ayah, what you're going to recite, فَلَمَّا أَلْقَوْا قَالَ مُوسَى. And this is in Suratul Yunus, Surah number 10, ayah number 81 and 82. First, which one I mentioned? Suratul Araf, Surah number 7, 117 to 122. And the second one is Suratul Yunus, Surah number 10, ayah number 81 and 82. And then third, Suratul Taha, Surah number 20, ayah number 69. وَأَلْقِ مَا فِي يَمِينِكَ. So after that, if it works, that's good. But if it not, method 3. Crush 7 leaves of green lotus and put them in a pot of water. Bring your mouth close to the pot and stir the crushed leaves while reciting Ayatul Kursi, Suratul Falaq and Suratul Nas. As I mentioned, either 7, 11 or 13 times, your wish. Advise the patient to drink and wash from the water for a few days without adding any water to it or heating it. You understand? But if weather is cold, I know it's hard. You have to take care of everything. You have to take the measures. If the patients want to heat it, then advise him to do with the, it's mentioned, the author mentioned sun's heat. But I know, like in North America or Canada, when winter is there, it's extreme. Water gets, sometimes it is so cold, it becomes ice. So you have to take care. You remember when we are doing prayer according to Sunnah, in that I mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in one hadith, somebody took shower because he was in janaba and he died. And what Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you make him die, because Islam is not hard and fast. And there Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said you might have suggested for the tayammum, even for the janaba. So here, if it is so cold, so you have to, make sure that you heat and then you started doing the ruqya, and soon after ruqya, you can take the shower. If you do the boiling heat and then you kept the water and then you started doing ruqya, because if it is very cold, I know it's really hard. So that time you can do it. Water should not be poured in a filthy place. Make sure that. So for this, the best way is having the normal shower, then put this water from top to bottom, collect in the container and throw that in the garden or any place where it's, good, not in the, filthy place. This would, by Allah's will, inshallah, biznillah, it will be cured. If it is not, then method 4. Recite ruqya and also following verse in the patient's ear. وَقَدْ مِنَّا إِلَى مَا عَمِلُوا مِنْ عَمَلٍ فَجَعَلْنَاهُ حَبًّا وَمَنْثُورًا. This is in Suratul Furqan, Surah number 25 and ayah number 23. I repeat again, Suratul Furqan, Surah number 25 and ayah number 23. So repeat 100 or more times until the patient's limbs feel numb. And you're going to recite it loudly in patient's ear. And all this method and everything, you need lot of energy, and make sure that before starting this, you have your food and everything, because this method it may sometime take 2-3 hours, and make sure that prayer time is not there in between, because for any reason we are not going to miss the prayer, because that's a fard. And we shall turn to whatever deeds they did in this life, and we shall make such deeds as floating dust scattered about. That is the meaning of the ayah. Repeat this ruqya for few days until the patient feels normal. At the time, rest assured that black magic would, with Allah's Bismillah, it will be gone or invalidated. Method 5. Al-Hafid reported in Fath al-Bari, Abdul Razzaq transmitted through Ash-Shabi. There is no harm in using Arabic nushra, which means the patient should pick leaves from the right and left side of a tree, crush them, mix them with water, then recite Ruqya, Ayatul Kursi, Suratul Falaq and Suratul Nas on them, and wash himself with water. Again, you recite Ruqya, and this can be achieved, and putting that leaves into the water. Method 6. The patient should collect as many spring flowers, wild and garden ones, and boil them lightly in a clean pot of the fresh water. And you must be wondering which leaves. So I came to know senna leaves, and if you Google it, you will know, and you can order and bring it to home. Senna leaves. And some say berry leaves. If you are in Asian country, you get it very easily. Wait until the water settles, recite Ayatul Kursi, Falak and Nas and water, then wash yourself, and you would, Bismillah, you'll be cured. Method 7. Recite Ayatul Kursi, Surat al-Falaq and Nas and following supplication over a pot of water, then drink and wash from it for a few days, and you would, Bismillah, you'll be cured. Allahumma Rabba an-Nasi azhib al-basa washfi anta shafil la shifa la shifaka shifauka al-yuqadiru saqama. Bismillahi arqika wallahu yashfika min kulli du'i yudika wa min kulli nafsin aini hasidin Allahu yashfik. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. Following things you're going to recite. Method 8. And these are mentioned in morning evening duas also. Wayyaka nasta'in or Fortress of Muslim. Method 8. Write the verses on a clean dish with clean ink. Rub it out with the black seed oil, then drink it and rub it on your chest and forehead for 3 days. Clean dish with clean ink. Anything which is edible, you can do that. This one looks hard though, so you can use the above methods if you can't do this one. But I'll tell you how it can be done. Write the verses on a clean dish with clean ink. As I mentioned, with the edible thing, if you can write it with color which is used in the food color, which is used in the food on the dish, rub it out with the black seed oil, then drink it and rub it on your chest and forehead for 3 days. And what you're going to recite, Suratul Arrabt, Surah number 7, ayah number 117 to 122. Wa awhayna till Rabbi Musa wa Harun. So inshallah, the spell would, with Allah's permission, will be removed. According to Ibn Taymiyyah, it is lawful for the ill Muslim to write the verses of the Quran or supplication on a vessel, dishes, etc. Rub the writing out with water, black seed oil, and drink the water. So Ibn Taymiyyah, his qawl was written here. Method 9. Write the appropriate ruqya on a clean vessel with a clean ink, maybe saffron you can use, or the food color for instance. Wipe it out with water, then drink the water and wash yourself with it for a few days, and spell would with Allah's permission will be removed. Bismillah. Difference between Arrabt al-Ajaz al-Jinsi impotence and ad-Duhf al-Jinsi sexual weakness. Arab, the man affected by this type of black magic, feels active and energetic about having sexual intercourse with his wife. His penis is even erected as long as he is distant from his wife. Nevertheless, as he approaches her, his penis shrinks and is unable to have sexual intercourse. And al-ajaz al-jinsi, sexual inability impotence, it means a man's inability to have sexual intercourse with his wife, whether he is distant from him or her, as penis cannot erect. Ad-duhaf al-jinsi, sexual weakness, a man can only have sexual intercourse with his wife after long periods. Sexual intercourse takes place for only a short time, after which the penis loses its rigidity. Treatment of Arrabt al-Ajaz al-Jinsi impotence and the ad-duhf al-Jinsi sexual weakness. For treatment of Arrabt refers to the 9 methods mentioned above. As regards al-Ajaz al-Jinsi sexual inability impotence, it may be treated by doctors. However, as for ad-duhf al-Jinsi sexual weaknesses, use the following treatment. Before going further, let me clear you one thing. Go to the doctor, check yourself first, whether it's a woman or man. If you can't, then it is what? It is some kind of a black magic or something. Then you will follow this method. So here, the following treatment. Mix 1 kg of pure honey with 200 grams of local ghiza, malikat an-nahl, honey produced by the queen bee. You know, the pure one talking about. Second thing, recite Suratul Fatiha, Suratul Ashrah, Suratul Ayatul Kursi, Falak and Nas over the mixture. As I mentioned, maybe 7, 11 or 13 times. Eat 3 spoons every morning before eating any food, 1 spoon before lunch, 1 spoon 1 hour before dinner. Like, first in the empty stomach, first thing you're going to consume that, and in the afternoon before lunch, and in the dinner time before the dinner. Continue the course of treatment for 1 or 2 months, depending on the degree of weaknesses and black magic would by Bismillah, it will be cleared. Types and causes of sterility. Sterility in men. First we'll see sterility in men. There are 2 types. Organic sterility. This type may be treated by doctors if they could. Sterility caused by black magic. This type is caused by the genie's presence in a man's body. It is treated with Quran and the invocation of Allah. Generally, fertility in men requires that the sperm count be at least 20 million per cubic centimeter of semen. Sometimes a genie may interfere with one of the testes, which produce spermacea, by pressing it by other means, so that the testis would not produce the required sperm count to fertilize an ovum. When spermacea move from the testis to the gonocyte, they require much clear fluid, which is secreted and poured into the gonocyte by a specific gland. The fluid acts as a nourishment for the spermacea stored in gonocyte. Again, the genie interferes in this process by preventing the gland from secreting the clear fluid, and thus denying the spermacea stored in gonocyte of their nourishment. As a result of this satanic interference, spermacea dies. Spermacea die and fertilization is not achieved. Difference between natural sterility and sterility caused by black magic. Sterility caused by black magic has following symptoms. Note down this. Tightness in the chest, which begins at Al-Asr, may last until midnight. These are the things which is caused, you don't have children because of this thing, and you notice that. What you're going to notice? Whether tightness in the chest at Asr time till the midnight. And absent-mindedness, pain in lower part of the spine, Anxiety during sleep, nightmares. So what are the symptoms? These are for the men. You have to notice that tightness in the chest from the asr time till the midnight, absent-mindedness, pain in the lower part of the spine, anxiety during sleep, and nightmares. And sterility in women. This thing will continue in the next session, and inshallah, Bismillah will finish the next part. Like today we did part 7, chapter 7, part 1, and next we'll continue in next chapter. I mean the same chapter, part 2. Jazakallah khairan kaseera. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.